Country Life on Midlands 103. Brought to you by W. Orshaw, Burlington Business Park, Tullamore. Supplier of New Holland's tractors in the Midlands. worshaw.ie.
Good evening and welcome to Country Life here on Midlands 103 on Wednesday, 27th of May 2026. MJ Clery with you for the next hour, bringing you the latest from the Midlands and further afield from the worlds of agriculture, food and agri-business. Thank you all for joining me on what is a hot sunny evening. Silage making occurring at pace throughout the Midlands. In a moment, Aidan Brennan from the Irish Farmers Journal will chat to me about silage quality and yields, blue tongue, milk prices, managing stock during these very warm days, to mention just a few areas. We'll go around the houses with Aidan in just a moment. Also this evening, deer are one of the topics of conversation. Michael Keegan is from FRS and he chats to me about the deer management programme. It was launched last year and how a recent study into venison undertaken by FRS shows that we are missing a marketing opportunity with this high protein, low fat meat. More on that a little bit later. This week is Tractor Safety Week and unfortunately 38 fatalities involving tractors have occurred in the last 10 years. So even the most experienced of you all out there can make mistakes at time, and I know you're all driving this evening. As I said, silage occurring, so if you're listening to me on your tractor this evening, welcome, and maybe later in the hour there will be something you can take from the conversation I'm going to have with Ger Hartnett. He's from the HSA and he is going to have a couple of tidbits, some simple changes you can make to help ensure a safe harvesting season. We have a beef walk taking place in County Offaly on Friday. It's on the farm of John and James Dunn in Portarlington and it's part of the Future Beef programme. We're going to chat to John about his enterprise a little bit later, and Aisling Malloy, Teagasc advisor, is going to give an overview of the Future Beef programme itself. Now, text me 083 30 10 103. Happy to read out any of your texts here this evening over the course of the hour. As I said, Aidan Brennan from the Farmers Journal joins me to chat about a couple of different areas. Silage is the order of the day, and as I said, we will speak about that in a moment. But first, Aidan, you did an interesting article on the warm weather, managing cattle, well, especially dairy cows, in this spell of heat that we're having. Any areas that farmers need to be really cognizant of?
Hi MJ. Yeah, look, the key thing is making sure there's enough water for the dairy cows during these warm spells. Like, what cows really need is water. Obviously they need it all year round, every day of the year, but their consumption of water really increases during the hot weather because they're evaporating and respiring a lot more. And think of an animal, a cow has massive lungs. There's a lot of respiration taking place, and they need to actually up their water intake quite considerably during this warm weather in order to stay cool and keep all their systems running. And you see, if animals are short of water, and like I've travelled around the country a good bit this week, and you see cows queuing up with water trucks, that's a real dodgy sign, I would say, because there's already probably heat stress. Heat stress is a thing when temperatures go above 26 degrees. We've had that 3 or 4 days. Now, look, real bad heat stress takes place when humidity is very high as well. And there was times this afternoon where I would say humidity was over 80%, because it was real muggy, there was no breeze there at all, and in extreme heat. Now, there was thunderstorms as well, which usually happen after when humidity goes so high. But that's when heat stress is a real thing, and you see animals kind of panting, looking for shade. They really need water, high quantity and high quality water during that period.
Yeah, and there have been good advances in the last few years in relation to water troughs, fast fill troughs, for example. Like, not huge money for these ball cocks to change them and to ensure that troughs can fill at that quicker amount. I know lots of us still have the older style ones, and maybe even half-inch piping might be running into them. And look, for this weather, I know we don't get it too often, but we really need to be cognizant of it. As you say, cows standing at troughs, not too bad once they don't start knocking it over with their heads early in the morning.
And around the field.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, some cows will stand around the trough anyway, because it's actually cooler there. There's more evaporation of the water, and they'll from the trough itself, and they'll actually get cool. Feel coolness from that. But you're talking about the ball cocks. Its pipe size is critical, because you could have a very big fast flow ball cock, but if your pipe size is too small, it still won't flow fast enough to fill the trough that's there. So it's pipe size is really, really critical, and that half-inch or three-quarter-inch pipe it's grand for small numbers, but when numbers go above 60 or 70 dairy cows, I don't think it can keep up.
Aidan, silage is what we're going to chat about for a moment, and obviously the last few days has seen silage occur at pace throughout the entire country, and we're having, a great spell of weather for silage. What are farmers saying to you in relation to, quality is good, but I'm presuming bulk is back?
Bulk seems to be back a good bit. In anyone I'm speaking to anyway, they're a little bit disappointed. They might have quality, but it was relatively poor growing conditions up to last week. It was really only in the last week or 10 days, or even less, the last 4 or 5 days really, that growth rates really shot up. So anyone that's cutting from now on will probably get the benefit of that. But anyone that cut maybe earlier in the week or over the weekend, they're probably a little bit disappointed with the quantity that they have. But quality should be really, really good. It is still early. We need to remember it's 27th of May today, and a lot of contractors are telling me that they're over halfway through or 3/4 of the way through their first cut, which is extraordinary, really.
Yeah, I suppose it's so quick now with these larger machines and larger harvesters. A week is a very, very long time. Again, weather in blue tongue was something we were speaking about throughout last year, back end of the previous year and earlier this year. And a lot of farmers did go down the blue tongue vaccination route, but this is the time we need to be cognizant of it.
It is, and there's another case announced today in Tipperary. I see there was a bullock slaughtered that killed out with blue tongue type 3. So yeah, it's a really high risk time, especially with such warm weather during the breeding season. And you'll be concerned for herds that maybe haven't vaccinated, that this could be an impact for them if blue tongue is present in midges. The only thing that's maybe in favour is that it's not very windy, so we're reliant really on the midges being blown across the Irish Sea. But because, I suppose the other side of it is, because blue tongue is now prevalent in many parts of the country, maybe we're not as reliant on strong winds in order for blue tongue to spread. So look, it is definitely a risk, but it's going to be a risk all summer. Any temperatures above 12 degrees, it's higher risk for blue tongue. And I'd say as temperatures get hotter and above that, it's going to be more of a risk as well. So yeah, it's something to watch for sure. But I think myself, we won't know the impacts of it until next spring when animals start calving down.
Yeah, as you say, it's not going to be the last conversation we have on it. Fertiliser is another thing which is popping up for farmers across the board, and while prices rose, unfortunately, this year, supply was still there. But now what we're seeing on different media sources is lack of fertiliser, but it's next year, we're being told now. There's a lot of confusion, I suppose, is what I'd say, among farmers. We really don't know, Aidan, and I'm not saying you're definitively going to have the answer either, but fertiliser is something at the moment, it's up in the air. Farmers are unsure. Will there be enough for next year? Should they start buying a little bit more this year? Then they're being told not to. What's your take on it?
It's very hard to tell, and what's the right thing to do is, it's really impossible to tell at this point. All the indications would be, though, MJ, that fertiliser will be scarcer next spring than it was in the spring just gone, because of the impacts of the war in the Middle East. I think it's something like 25% of all the world's urea goes out through the Strait of Hormuz. It also has a big impact in terms of gas, and we know gas is a key ingredient in the manufacture of fertiliser. So we got away with it this year, I would say. I know prices increased, but they haven't increased much more since then. I think the cost of a tonne of urea is in around €750, and that's what it was 2 months ago probably. So it hasn't increased much since then. But there are fears within the industry, within farming organisations, that we could be short of nitrogen next year. But there's a lot. It's very hard to tell yet, because I also think there will be a reduction in demand, and we're seeing that this year already, particularly in the southern hemisphere. Some farmers in the likes of Asia, southern Africa, the southern hemisphere, and southern states of America are actually not sowing as much crops as they would have previously, and they've cut back on the amount of sowing they're doing. So they've cut back on the amount of fertiliser that they need because of the uncertainty over crop prices and fertiliser prices as to whether or not they make money in that. So that supply will definitely be back, but if demand is back, maybe things won't change too much in an Irish context. But there's a lot of uncertainty there. So some farmers are saying to me, well, I'm going to buy it now when it's available, even if it could prove to be expensive, but it could also prove to be very cheap fertiliser. And it could prove cheap as well if the likes of meat, the beef prices increase. if milk prices increase and if grain prices increase, then it could be cheap. But at the moment, it's still expensive. Margins are low, and it's risky, you know. So I suppose some farmers are saying, well, maybe they're better off to have it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. Uncertainty is the word, and you'll only know when it comes around. Hindsight, as I say, is 2020 vision. A couple of more areas, Aidan, before I let you go. Milk prices. Obviously, dairy farmers across the country looking for more for the milk in the tank, as much as they can get with prices where they are at. Where are we looking at the moment, and maybe a forecast for the next couple of months?
Yeah, sure. Milk prices in Ireland are relatively stable. All the big dairy co-ops are in around 37 cents a litre, including VAT for base price, and that hasn't really changed. I know Tirlawn set their price for 3 months, so we're heading into the third month of that now. And I know Lakeland Dairy has increased their price to about 37 cents a litre for the month of April. So it's relatively stable. Markets themselves are also relatively stable, but at a low level. I mean, butter is trading at little under €4,000 a tonne, which is a historically low price. This time last year, it was over double that. We're pushing to almost €8,000 a tonne. Butter, I mentioned butter. Cheese is trading at a low enough level as well. You know, 3,300, 3,400 euros a tonne. That's back a lot on where it was. The only real positive in terms of commodities at the moment is skim milk powder. So skim has been doing relatively bad for the last number of years compared to the other dairy commodities that we'd look at. But in the last 4 or 5 months, it has really shot up, and it has had a sustained rally. It's up about 25% or 30% on where it was this time last year, whereas everything else is back 25% or more on where it was last year, particularly in the case of butter. So it's that's something that's bucking the trend, and there's a number of factors probably behind that. Number one, when there's war in the world, as we're seeing in the Middle East, the demand for skim milk powder increases because it's a very high quality dairy ingredient. It's easy to store. It's easy it's a reliable product to store. It doesn't deteriorate in storage, and so a lot of countries will actually buy more of it during times of strife, and we would have seen that particularly when the war started first. But it's a source of protein. It's about 38% protein, and everything to do with protein is really, really good at the moment. There's a global demand for protein has increased substantially. So anything that likes the skim milk powder has gone up as a result of that, which is positive. But when you take the whole basket of goods, things are poor enough at the moment, and there's no real sign of that changing. You know, the future markets are still pretty poor to look at. So I would say that current milk prices are likely to stay for the next couple of months. I can't see any rapid change anywhere, that's for sure.
Third week in a row, that is, Aidan, that protein and protein products have come up here on the programme. Everywhere we turn now, we're seeing them. And I'm wondering then, is butter going down? Is because of the fat content, and there's a push on this fitness side of things as well, anti-fat, if you will, and higher protein and 0% fat, so a lot of these foods are. I wonder, is that anything to do with it, or is there just a less demand for it in general?
There's a lot of butter in the world, and I think that's the main reason. The demand for butter, like in the last decade, has also shot up. I mean, it's a huge turnaround for butter compared to where it was. Like, if you even take the price of butter today at €4,000 a tonne, historically that's really, really high. It's back on where it was last year. So I think demand for butter will continue to rise. I think we're in a blip at the moment because there's been increased supply of butter in Europe and North America and in New Zealand as well. So there's loads of butter in the world. That's why it's not doing as well. But I would say that when that settles, when the market settles, you're going to see fat prices remain at a higher level than they would have been traditionally. And I just think that the protein thing has gone mad because of the increased demand for high protein foods, because of people on the likes of Wegovy or Ozempic, those GLP-1 type drugs, who have a higher requirement for protein in their diets. And we're seeing protein being fortified into all types of food now, such as, fortified yogurt, drinks, have added protein. You're even seeing, popcorn and snacks with added protein, just because people want to consume more protein because it's healthier for them. So that's kind of the main reason there. And obviously, look, there's other high protein dairy products that are in greater demand, even the likes of whey protein concentrate, which would be used in the form of those protein powders that weightlifters and sports people use, that's very, very expensive now. A ton of whey protein concentrate, which Tirlawn would make a lot of, that's costing up to €25,000 per ton, whereas it was probably 15 or 16,000 euros a ton 12 months ago. And the same for milk protein isolates and milk protein concentrates, which are manufactured from skim milk powder. They are now retailing at 12 to 14,000 euros a ton, freely available for those products now, which wouldn't have been more than a couple of €1,000 a ton 12 months ago. So there's an enormous increase in demand, and I think if we didn't have that increase in demand for protein, milk price would be in a much worse position than it is today.
Yeah, it's definitely a positive for the dairy industry. And as you said, it shows no sign of abating whatsoever. It's only going one way, that appetite for protein, I believe. Aidan, we've covered a lot of areas there. I have to say many thanks for joining me this evening. We will chat to you again on the programme, and thank you.
No problem, MJ. Thank you.
Aidan Brennan there from the Farmers Journal. So lots of different areas there, but as I said, third week in a row, or possibly even fourth, that protein comes up in conversation, and a massive global appetite for it at the moment from younger people, athletes, young individuals who are gym goers. It is protein to your weight, basically. This is the area this is looked at. So say, for example, you're 75 kilos, if you will, and then it is recommended to build muscle that you have 2 grams of protein per kg. So that's 150 grams, say, for your average individual, which takes quite a bit of doing. So that's why all those powders are selling as well as they are, because to get that through a traditional diet of just normal food and meat and whatnot would be very challenging. So these powders are how it is supplemented, and that is the reason for the growth in that area. Now, coming up after the break, Michael Keegan from FRS is going to talk to us about deer. And would you believe protein's going to come up in conversation again, because venison, yes, it is high protein, low fat, and FRS reckon that we're missing a trick in relation to the marketing of venison, and also an update on the deer management programme. It started last year, so how is it going and where is it currently at? Stay tuned for that.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw, family owned and serving the Midlands since 1982, we're Ireland's largest independent agri-dealer, specialising in New Holland tractors and parts. With over 40 years' experience, we provide top quality sales, service and support. Visit W.R. Shaw in Tullamore and Carlow, or online at wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, I've changed around things. I was saying to you before the break that Michael Keegan from FRS was going to be speaking to us about deer. Michael is going to join us in a few moments' time, but we are going to talk about a farm walk which is taking place this coming Friday in County Offaly. I have to be careful here now, it's Port Arlington, but I have verified it earlier that it is County Offaly as opposed to County Laois. John Dunn is the farmer, and John is going to speak to me in a moment, but Aisling Malloy is the Teagasc advisor in relation to it. I'm going to have a word with Aisling first. Aisling, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
No bother, MJ. Thanks for having us on. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Aisling. So it is an event, as I said, coming up this Friday, and it is part of the Future Beef walks. So tell us a little bit about this. We're going to talk to John in a moment about the enterprise and what's on offer on the day. But Future Beef, this programme, what exactly is this, Aisling, for people who aren't familiar?
Yeah, so it's a suckler beef demonstration farm programme at MJ, and it's run through Teagasc. And we're actually sponsored by all the factories. So it consists of, we've 23 farms right around the country, and they're all they're spread right throughout, but they're all representative of their areas in terms of the farm size and the system. So whether they're, they're all suckling farms anyway, but they could be selling weanlings, they could be selling stores, they could be finishing cattle. And the whole idea of it is to show how to improve the sustainability on it. So that's the financial and the environmental side of things, and also the social as well. So, we'll hear from John as well, but the likes of him and James, his son, are in a partnership together as well. So, to show how that can continue into the future and the generations as well.
Yeah, it's a very hot topic at the moment, Aisling, that of generation renewal. So it is great to see a farm walk and a farm where there's a partnership and there's a younger farmer involved. And I suppose this is something we need to highlight more when we're on these walks and chatting to individuals. How's it working? How's it going? Two people working together with the idea of the next generation coming on then in a more management role.
Exactly. Exactly, it makes a huge difference. And, even bringing the young farmer, from James's point of view, bringing him in early, that he is involved and is involved in decisions and what goes on in the future. And, from a labour point of view as well, because realistically, a lot of young farmers will be working off farms. So how you can improve facilities there to make things more efficient as well. And John and James are a prime example of how that's working on their farm.
Very good, Ash. I'm going to keep you on the line and I'm going to pop across now to John. And John, I'm going to say many thanks for joining me here on the programme this evening. You're farming in partnership with your son, James, in Port Arlington. As I said at the outset, John, I'm clear now with County Offaly. I am right, aren't I?
Yes, MJ. Good evening, and good evening to your listeners. We're farming here right on the border. We're along the River Barrow.
Yeah, that's why I have to be careful.
Very much in Offaly.
Yeah, well, very good. Okay, well, we're on the right track. Yeah. So depending on the side of the border you are. I'm looking in front of me here, John. I'm seeing 79 suckler cows with a dairy calf to beef enterprise where 140 dairy calves are purchased annually, bought through to finish. You're busy men, is what I would say. Tell me a little bit about the sucklers first, John, the breeding, please.
Yes, MJ. Well, we have a spring calving suckler herd, and the cows would be mainly Charolais Simmental Cross, a few Limousines, a few Herefords throwing in that would have originated from the dairy enterprise, the dairy beef enterprise. So we've a mixed bunch of cows. They're midweight, 600 kilo, 650 kilo cow size, and yeah, look, our herd is constantly evolving and constantly improving. We've a long way to go. Lots of potential there, but we're on the right road.
Yeah, and were you always doing calf to beef then on the side, John, or was that something you took on the last number of years just to bolster profitability?
Yeah, well, I suppose we are doing dairy calf to beef for about 10 or 12 years now. We started off on a small scale. We gave up our sheep enterprise and felt that dairy bred calves were a better option for us. They complement our own suckler cow enterprise. If you have problems with the suckler cows and calving, well, you have dairy bred calves coming on as well. So, all our eggs are not in the one basket.
And do you run them in conjunction with each other? Do you calve down early, then do your calves after, or do you rear calves while you're calving out in the spring, or is it autumn calving? How do you work that side of things?
Yeah, so we calve early. We start to calve in the 1st of February, and we have a good few cows synchronised. So a lot of calving takes place here in early February, and those cows and calves are gone out, which leaves room and time to focus on the dairy bred calves once they start arriving on the farm.
Sourcing the dairy bred calves then, John, local, or do you go through marts? Do you use the likes of Dundee? Have you people you've been dealing with over the years? How have you set up the relationships with the dairy farmers?
Yeah, we have one or two farmers that I deal with over the years, and most of my calves come from them. And this year we sought out two new suppliers. Actually found them on Dundee and went and looked at what they had, and I was impressed. So, but look, it's trial and error. We have made some mistakes in the past, but it's just trial and error, and until you get the farmer that is like-minded and has the stock that you want and gives them the care that you expect. And so yeah, look, we're in a better place now than where we were a few years ago with regard to sourcing calves.
Yeah, and as you
far
say,
better off sourcing them from local dairy farmers.
Yeah, and as you say, trial and error, and I don't think anyone's ever got it all right, John, especially when it comes to purchasing calves. And eventually you click and you find, as you say, someone like-minded. You have a few different aspects on the farm then. So the farm walk is taking place Friday, 5th of June, 6:30. So it's good for the part-time guys that can go in the evening after work, or if they're not around during the day. And an issue, or an area I should say, we were speaking about earlier, is that of handling and a handling facility. You're currently in the process of, is it establishing one? Have you any of it down yet? Will there be something for people to see, or are you just at early stages of the building?
Yeah, the building at the moment is about, I suppose, 75% complete. The bones of it is there, and we're very happy with the progress of it so far. So this This cattle handling unit has been in the planning stage and development stage for the past 25 years. I've always wanted to improve what we had. We built a temporary facility back then and didn't think we would be there for as long, but we've totally outgrown it, and it's become a safety issue for me. You know, as I get older, we need something a bit safer, and cattle flow is so important, and to be able to handle the numbers of cattle that we have at the moment efficiently and safely, that's what we're aiming to do. So we've gone to a lot of trouble to try and get this right, and we're hoping that it will. It'll be interesting on the night now. I've been looking forward to hear what some of our visitors on the night have to say, and looking forward to their opinion. But unfortunately, what's there is there now, and it's not going to be changed. But,
yes, I know, but still,
there
could
in the handling unit.
Could be some tweaks on gates and whatnot. Where did you come across the design, John? Is it something you came up with yourself? Did you see it in other yards? Did you get a specialist to come in and give you a hand? Because there's so much out there when it comes to animal handling facilities. It's hard to set in stone what you want.
There is, yes. Well, we put a lot of thought into this, and there's a cattle specialist in England, and she was over here with us one day in Pilltown, Miriam Parker. So I listened to her carefully, and she didn't say anything on the day that contradicted what I was doing, and so I've put a good bit of research into it. I've visited some other yards over the years and some excellent handling units, and where some people focused on one area and spent a lot of money on that, I went maybe a different route, and we want to be able to handle cattle fast, whether it's testing or whether it's bolusing or whether it's winter dosing. They're the three main things that we will be using this handling unit for. And also loading cattle in the spring, whether it's going to the mart early in the morning or going to the factory or going out to grass, to be able to load cattle safely and to have it in such a way that the cattle will be encouraged up into the trailer is what we're focused on. So
yeah, safety is number one.
I'm very happy with the results so far now. So.
Yeah, I actually, as I was coming down to the programme this evening, there was a cattle lorry in front of me, and you're talking about safety and loading cattle, and I only ever saw it once. I was back a while ago through an individual who normally brings cattle for me, but he was busy and he got somebody else. But this man in question had a cattle lorry, but he had a chain on a winch, and it was attached to the centre gate, if you will. So once cattle went up in it, then you didn't have to go up behind it and try and get the gate up behind the cattle in case you get a kick. He had it on a remote control, and I was able to pull the gate in nice and slowly in behind it. And I said to myself, I'm always learning. You're always seeing different things that will make you sit up and go, that is a good idea.
That's true. There are always new ideas, always, and there's some things we don't get right, and there's always new improvements and new ideas. I fully agree with that. But it's only by going around to visit farms and visit what other people are doing, and by listening to other people's experiences, that you come up with a plan for your own farm. And so that's what I hope people will learn by visiting ourselves here on Friday week. And I hope they'll find it of interest. And as I say, I'm looking forward to their opinions and maybe some good suggestions as to other little additions that we can add on. For example, people's views on backing gates and how to when cattle run up the chute, to hold them up there, so there are different anti-backing bars and things like that. So I'd be interested to hear people's views on something like that. So
absolutely, John.
Also ways maybe to wash down the crush afterwards. There's different ideas there, whether it's power washers or whether it's a fast flow hose like what's in a dairy parlour, or all these little extras. People might have something to add there, and so I'm looking forward to a good discussion on the night.
Yeah, well, you're going to have lots of people, as you say, Friday 5th of June, 6:30. I'm going to say many thanks to you, John, and I'm going to shoot back to Aisling. Aisling, just the setup of this event then on the evening, you're going to have a number of different stands, I suppose, focusing on different areas. Can you give us just an idea of what's on offer, please?
Yeah, of course, MJ. So the plan is that it'll be about an hour and a half just going around to the different stands. So we've 8 stops. It'll be short and sweet and to the point. We'll be looking at the farm financials, calf and heifers at 2 versus 3 years of age. There'll be a demo to go along with that as well. Then we have the water quality and the Farming for Water EIP funding that John and James got there on the farm, and some of the items that they were funded through that as well. Then we'll run through the bull selection for the spring and the breeding decisions. So I think John mentioned already they doing a synchronisation programme there on the farm, which is really interesting and really works well for them. Then we'll cover a bit on the dairy calf beef enterprise. There's red clover there as well, so a bit on that performance and the soil health. Obviously the new handling unit as well. And John and James also grow their own grain, so we'll run through a little bit on feeding that, the carbon footprint, and the trying to work that into diets as well. And then we'll be back in the yard then, so there'll be plenty of time for a chat and discussion and to have a look around. And Dawn Meats are very kindly providing refreshments as well at the end of it.
Between the breeding, between the stock, the tillage, the EIP, I think, Aisling, you could have this on at 9:30 in the morning, and you could have a whole day. There's a lot on offer. Just briefly on the water quality and the EIP, what exactly is going to be discussed on that? Is there a water course on the farm, or what is it exactly?
Yeah, very good question. So the River Barrow is actually running for, John could correct me on this now, but approximately 2.5 kilometres the whole way along the farm, just along the border there. So obviously the water quality of that is really, really important. And David Webster is going to be there. He's the local asset advisor to discuss how John and James can manage their land, I suppose, to reduce runoff there. And then some of the measures that are funded through the programme. So, for example, John and James got a bucket and brush there for keeping the yard tidy. There's a solar pump that will be there in the river that's able to supply water back to cattle in the yard and that as well. And we'll be able to, just discuss practical things on farm to reduce the risk of pollution. And as I say, what measures are funded there that farmers can avail of as well.
Very good, Aisling. As I said, loads on offer there. I'm going to say many thanks for joining me this evening to both Aisling and John. The farm walk is on Friday, 5th of June, 6:30 p.m, as we said, on the farm of John and James Dunn, Portarlington in County Offaly. Many thanks there, and that's going to be a really interesting evening with lots on offer. Now, I'm going to shoot to a break, and after the break, I'm going to be coming back and we're talking about deer, among other areas, so stay tuned.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
Brought to you by W.R. Shaw, where New Holland isn't just a brand, it's our passion. For over 40 years, we've been Ireland's trusted name for New Holland tractors, parts and farm machinery. Whether you need new, used or ex-hire tractors, we've got you covered. wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, I told you before the break we were going to have a chat about deer this evening with Michael Keegan from FRS, but unfortunately he has been unable to take a call this evening, so I'll shelve that for a week. But basically the chat in relation to that was that last year FRS set up a deer management programme, and if you were a farmer and you had deer on your farm, you could contact them and they would put you in touch with a hunter, and he or she then would come to the farm and have a chat with you and see about handling the deer problem. That's been going on for a year. They've since set up an app which is called Deer Connect, which now you can log and trace deer numbers on holdings and give a better idea as to how the management of them is occurring. And also a study was done then by FRS in relation to deer venison meat, selling it and marketing it properly, I suppose, in a way where the consumer would be aware of its health benefits and whatnot, and they feel there's a huge market for that. So that's the area where it's going. That's the start of that. It's 1 year into a 4-year programme. So we'll cover it on another week here on the programme. Just a few news stories for the next couple of moments here. I have tomorrow's Farmers Journal in front of me, and the lead story is Hope for World Cup Beef Bounce. So we're well used to this now at this stage in beef farming. Every 4 years the World Cup, every 2 years the European Championships, and if the weather is good, lots of burgers being barbecued and lots of beef being eaten, especially in the UK, our biggest market. And that is what we are looking for. So saying that hopefully there's going to be a bigger demand as a result of the World Cup, which is starting week after next, 6th of June, I believe. Open a correction on that. And obviously beef prices where they're currently at, look in around that 630, 640 mark, with heifer quotes slightly higher, touching 650, but it's a long way where it was this time last year. and a long way off where it needs to be for winter finishers to make a margin. Also, sheep farming and sheep prices have been good over the last period of time. However, according to the journal, sheep prices have fallen by 20 to 30 euro a head. Lamb prices in many marts have fallen sharply this week, dropping by upwards to 20 to 30 euro per head. So a little bit of pressure there on sheep farmers. Also, fuel income support scheme. If you are applying for this, it has been extended to midnight on Tuesday, the 2nd of June. So you need to get your skates on in relation to this. Another 4 or 5 days if you're going to apply for the fuel income support scheme. Also an interesting one here in relation to forestry payments. So forestry payments to farmers have collapsed by 7 million in 2023, and that actually leads on to something I had seen earlier in the week, which I said I must bring to your attention, and it was Deputy Carol Nolan from County Offaly. She brought this up with Minister Martin Hayden, and it's about who was basically getting the payments under the forestry programme, and are they active farmers? So we spoke about this last couple of weeks on the programme. Who's going to be an active farmer? The ICMSA are looking for people who have, I think, 1 livestock unit per hectare, which is, quite a bit of cows, livestock unit. So you're quite reasonably heavily stocked, whereas some of the hill organisations want it as, I think, 0.1, a very minimal amount of stock. But basically, Carol Nolan brought it to the Minister's attention that a lot of farming payments, a lot of forestry payments now are being taken by large corporations, and Deputy Nolan claimed that the changes to the active farmer definition opened the door to greater corporate involvement in Irish forestry at the expense of genuine farm families. So there's going to be lots of talk about this active farmer over the next period of time, and it's not going to be hashed out today or tomorrow, but it is going to have connotations in relation to your payment when the new cap is negotiated the year after next. So something we're going to be speaking about, but Deputy Karen Nolan has been beating the drum about it. She wants payments to go to farmers and not to large corporations. Actually, pension funds have been coming in and buying up Irish land and planting because the forestry payments have been so good under that new forestry scheme. If you're allowed to plant, that is. That's where the issue is. You're not always allowed to plant. That's the problem. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot to a break, and after the break then we're going to talk to Ger Hartnett. He's from the HSA, and it's about Tractor Safety Week. It's taking place from Monday 25th through to the end of the week. And unfortunately, 38 fatalities on Irish farms involving tractors in the last 10 years. So no matter how experienced you are, you can always learn something in relation to tractor safety. And Ger Hartnett is going to have a few tidbits for you in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw. Looking for the best in farm machinery? We've been supplying top quality New Holland tractors and parts and providing service since 1982. Our expert team is here to keep your farm running smoothly, with branches in Tullamore and Carlow. Visit wrshaw.ie today.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now we are joined, I should say, by Ger Hartnett from the HSA. Ger, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Thanks, MJ, and thank you very much for having me on your show again.
More than welcome, Ger. And we always try and have a little tidbit which listeners might take home with them when we're speaking to you. And this time it's about tractor safety. Tractor Safety Week is this week. You picked a very, very, very good week for it. I know this was done in advance and you couldn't predict the future, but probably one of the busiest week of the year, I'd say, is what this week is going to be with tractors as a result of the weather. So people are being cognizant of being safe, but there's always a couple of things that they can take on board.
Absolutely. So this is a new initiative of the Farm Safety Partnership Advisory Committee of the Health and Safety Authority, which is all the main stakeholders in the agricultural sector. What we're doing is we're trying to highlight the simple steps that can save lives when using tractors on farms. And as you rightly pointed out, this is the best week of the year to be getting this message out, and we have a number of messages that we are communicating on a daily basis.
Yeah, and these messages, Ger, that's what we'll talk about now just for the next couple of moments. Bite-sized chunks, if you will. Are there a couple definitively that you would like to say to our listeners here who are more than likely operating tractors as we speak that they can do to help them be a little bit more safe as they go about their work?
Absolutely. So, look, the key messages there are about conducting checks on the tractors and the associated machinery implements that they'll be using. So, do a daily check before you start to work every day. Ensure that the tractor is maintained in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations and serviced properly. And obviously, you're checking brakes and steering, lights and mirrors and visibility. The safe operation of the tractor as well is essential. Watching out for blind spots. Look, we understand that contractors and farmers will be operating in the yards, bringing in silage and bales, etc. So there is blind spots on some of these big machines, and just to be aware that when operating in the farmyards and in tight locations. The other two areas then we're trying to focus on is awareness around children and the elderly. So older farmers are disproportionately affected with farm accidents. So just be cognizant of children who get excited when the contractor comes into the yard and seeing the big machinery operating, that they should be kept away from the machinery when it's in operation. And finally, a very important point then is the fatigue point. So we know that they will be working long hours, but they should plan for some rest breaks, get a bit of additional support drivers in, and ensure good hydration and decent nutrition as well, food, and making sure that they're taking breaks when they can to combat the fatigue. So they're the key messages.
Yeah, I think everything you've said there are very reasonable, and on a couple of them, look, the fatigue is the big one. We know that weather windows can be short, and drivers are driving throughout the night in order to get jobs done, and it is one that it is a fine balance, and the additional support is one which, look, it is there and it's necessary, along with the hydration and the food. Look, if you're going to have a drink and have something to eat, it's going to help you in relation to it all, but fatigue it's a really important one, Ger, isn't it?
Absolutely, and look, there's evidence there to say that fatigue is a factor in a lot of vehicle-related incidents, and I think, MJ, it's important to point out that vehicles, which is tractors and other machinery, are the leading cause of farm-fatal accidents, and over the last 10 years, there has been 72 vehicle-related incidents, with tractors accounting for 38 deaths. So tractors are by far the largest cause of fatal accidents. So fatigue is a factor in that. So just for people to be aware that, contractors to plan for it, to have additional support. And as you and I both know, the only combat to fatigue is rest.
Ger, I'm going to say many thanks for joining me. A few great little pieces of info there, and you always come on with nice bite-sized chunks, easy to digest for people. So I'll say thank you for joining me, and we'll speak to you again in the programme. Thanks,
MJ, and thanks to your listeners. Take care, bye.
Ger Hartnett there from the HSA, and I know lots of you are listening in this evening on your tractors, and look, it is a challenging time and there's long hours to be worked, but look, if you are absolutely fatigued, as they say, if you're wrecked, tired, just please say so, I suppose, do you know what I mean, and take a break and tell whoever's running the outfit that you just need some rest for a while, and then you'll be back on track again, because there's no point causing an accident, just no point at all. Another one we talked about before when we were talking about machinery, and that is keeping windows clean and keeping mirrors clean. Can't remember, somebody said it on the programme before when we were talking about tractor and farm safety. I always thought it was a great piece of advice, and I have seen it done. You see some contractors, they'll have window lean up in the cab and they'll have a rag and they'll keep everything spotless, and just from a vision perspective, being able to see properly is a big one as well for avoiding accidents. So I know you're all working away on tractors at the moment, and we're very thankful of all the work you're doing as contractors, because as I often say in the programme, without you there'd be no farming, there'd be no cows to be fed, there'd be no silage, there'd be no tillage, there'd be no crops, there'd be nothing. So without the contractors, farming would come to a standstill. So thank you for all the work you're doing. It's long hours, it's low pay, and even for the contractors who run the outfits, there's not much monetary gain, especially this year with the diesel. So on behalf of the farmers, thanks for putting in all the work. That is it for this evening's programme. I'd like to thank all of my guests here over the course of the last hour. That farm walk in County Offaly, just giving it a mention, it is on Friday week, so that's the 5th of June. Portarlington, John and James Dunn. The show is repeated Sunday morning, 7am through to 8am. I'll be back with you next Wednesday evening as usual. Get us wherever you get your podcast. Type in MJ Clery and we will pop up. You can listen at your leisure. I'll speak to you in 7 days' time. Good evening.